We're going to use our position versus time data to figure out the velocity versus time. So we'll have to add some extra columns in here to give us some space. Start by clicking up on top where the F is and go to Insert Column and give yourself an extra column, and you can do Insert Column again because we'll actually need 2 extra columns. This first one I'm going to label velocity, and that should be in meters per second. And we're actually going to enter in the definition of velocity, or the equation for what velocity is. So I'm going to skip a box and go to that second box down and enter my equation. So I start with equals, and I'm going to start a parentheses, and I'll enter in the definition of velocity, which is a change in position over a change in time. So for my change in position, I'll have this final position minus this initial position, and then I'll close my parentheses, divided by a change in time, which is a final time. Let's put our parentheses in first. A final time minus an initial time, and we'll close our parentheses. So now we have a change in position divided by a change in time, and we'll press enter. And this will give us our average velocity over that time interval. We're also going to need the average of that time interval. So we'll go over here and say time seconds, and we're just going to take an average of that time. So we'll start our parentheses again, we'll press equals and start our parentheses, and now we're going to take an average of our final time and our initial time. So we click on that final time right there, the 1.325, and add the previous time to it, end our parentheses, and divide by 2 to take the average. So what we're doing is we're taking the average between of 1.325 and 0 here. We press enter and it gives us the average time. Now I want to continue to use that equation, so I want that equation to repeat. I'm going to drag it all the way down the column by clicking on the equation first, or the cell that has the equation in it, and then I'm going to come over to the lower right and get this black cross. Once I have the black cross, I can click and drag down, and it will drag that equation down, so that if you click on the very bottom, you'll see that its content is A11 minus A10, which is A11 minus A10, or a change in position, divided by E11 minus E10, E11 minus E10, a change in time. I'm also going to drag down the equation over here by clicking on it, getting the black cross, and dragging down. Now I have an average velocity and average time over which that velocity was taken. Now that I have a velocity versus time, I can graph this and get a graph of velocity versus time. And we'll graph this just the same way we did the position versus time. Select our data, click on chart, scatter, mark scatter, and at this point we'll have to verify that we have our axes correct. So we'll go up to chart, source data, the x value should be our time, but it's not here, it's our velocity. So we want our time on the x, and we want our y values to be velocity. We can also label that if we want to. That was trial 1. Velocity this time versus time. Say OK, and then you can go on to label your axes and set a best fit line to your data.